Number 9. Jennaire Girardeau. Mark Girardeau began cheating on his wife Jennaire after taking a job at the University of Delaware in 2017. There, he met 33-year-old Meredith Chapman, who worked as an official at the university. Girardeau was unhappy in his marriage, and Chapman was going through a divorce when the sparks between them erupted into a full-blown affair. When 47-year-old Jennaire became suspicious that something was going on, she sewed listening devices into the pockets of his coats, installed a tracking device on his car, and tapped his phone. In the meantime, the couple pursued marriage counseling, but continued to have problems. Jennaire eventually confronted Mark about the information she picked up with her surveillance devices, and he admitted he was having an affair. Mark and Jennaire separated, but she found it difficult to move on. One night, while waiting for her at a restaurant to discuss their situation, Mark received a handful of text messages from Jennaire, saying that he ruined her life and that she hopes he never finds happiness, along with a final goodbye. Concerned for his mistress's well-being, Mark tried contacting Chapman. When he couldn't reach her, he rushed over to her house, where he found her and Jennaire dead from a murder-suicide. His estranged wife had entered Chapman's house, waited for her to come home, and then shot her before turning the gun on herself. In a 2020 interview nearly a year and a half later, Mark said that he had found himself wanting out of the 24-year marriage after he and Jennaire kept finding themselves in the same old ruts. Unfortunately, she just wasn't willing to let go, and as a result, 2 women needlessly lost their lives. Number 8. ELENA Romanova. When ELENA Romanova discovered her husband's affair in 2014, she flew into an uncontrollable fit of rage. The Russian bombshell learned of the tryst when the other woman, Maria Sokolova, posted a photo of flowers demanded bought her on social media. Both women had received identical batches of roses for Valentine's Day from Romanova's husband, Evgeny, who worked with Sokolova at an airport. ELENA confronted Maria and learned that Evgeny had taken her on romantic trips to Paris and other cities, while telling his wife he was traveling for work. The secret relationship had been going on for 5 long years, and Sokolova allegedly threatened to rip ELENA's entire family away from her. It wasn't long after the heated discussion that ELENA showed up at the local police station and turned herself in for the mistress's murder. ELENA told detectives that she forced Sokolova into a car at knife point. She then tied a scarf around the woman's neck and tightened it to the car seat, hoping that she'd slowly suffocate during the half-hour drive to a remote wooded area outside St. Petersburg. When she removed Sokolova from the car, ELENA realized her victim was still alive, so she set her on fire and then stabbed and mutilated her. The scorned wife later claimed that she was in a severe state of distress and didn't remember committing the crime. She was charged with conspiring with others to kidnap and murder. Evgeny quickly vanished after Maria's death. He was absent at her funeral and also never visited ELENA in jail. At the time of his wife's trial in 2019, it was believed that he had shacked up with a new woman. ELENA faced up to 20 years if convicted, but it's unclear how the case played out. In a strange twist, ELENA's mother, who was also her defense attorney, claimed that her daughter was innocent and that the police had set her up. Number 7. Christmas Abbott. Reality TV star Christmas Abbott first rose to fame when she was featured in the 19th season of the hit show Big Brother in 2017. But she found herself making headlines for different reasons the following year, when she was accused of deliberately crashing her Mercedes into a car being driven by her baby daddy's mistress. The 36-year-old went completely off the rails after finding out that the father of her unborn child was seeing someone else. Abbott, who was 8 months pregnant at the time, drove to the mistress's gym in Tampa to confront her about the affair. Police later claimed that she made a huge scene in the parking lot and threw a coffee cup before getting into her SUV and ramming into the other woman's vehicle twice, causing over $5,000 worth of damage. An officer said that he had to tell Abbott to stop screaming at the victim numerous times while investigating the crime scene. She was charged with criminal mischief and sentenced to 12 months of probation and 25 hours of community service, along with a $1,358 fine. The judge also mandated her to take anger management classes. Number 6. Jealousy in West Java. In a shocking case that has taken over headlines in Indonesia, a 26-year-old woman from West Java named Neneng Umaya is facing prison time for her reaction to her husband's infidelity. Upon discovering intimate text messages between her husband and the other woman, a 26-year-old janitor named Dini Nurdiani Neneng was shocked to find that her husband had told Dinny that he had planned to divorce his wife so they could get married. She warned Dinny to end things and stay away, but the affair continued. Pushed to a breaking point, Neneng sent Dinny a text message from a fake number, pretending to be a relative of her husband's who was interested in meeting his new partner. They made plans to meet at a bus stop, where Neneng approached Dinny from behind, struck her repeatedly with a blunt object, and then stabbed her to death. She disposed of the victim's body along a riverbank. During their investigation, police went to the home Neneng shared with her husband to see if she knew anything about his mistress's disappearance. Neneng reportedly seemed uneasy and ended up confessing to the murder. Under Indonesian law, she faces a minimum of 20 years behind bars for her crime and could receive the death penalty. She expressed remorse for her actions and seems ready to accept whatever consequences may come. Number 5. Anne-Marie Anastasi. In 2015, Anne-Marie Anastasi and her husband Anthony decided to spice up their marriage by taking on a shared partner. They began a steamy three-way relationship with 25-year-old Jacqueline Riggs, and when things got serious, the couple invited her to move into their Maryland home. It wasn't long before things got complicated, as these situations often do. Anthony and Jacqueline quickly became exclusive and kicked Anne out of the relationship. She began sleeping alone in the bedroom she once shared with her husband, while he spent his nights being intimate with Riggs in the basement where she slept. Desperate to rid herself of the problem, Anastasi persuaded her daughter's 18-year-old boyfriend Gabriel Stas to kill the pair. He shot Anthony in the head and stabbed Jacqueline to death. Anne dialed 911 several hours later and said in a frantic tone that her husband had taken his own life. When officers arrived and discovered two bodies, she changed her story to try making it sound like a murder-suicide. It didn't take long for police to realize that she was hiding something. They found gunpowder on her clothes and body. A gun that had been left next to Anthony's body turned out to be different from the weapon that was used to kill him, further pointing towards a very sloppy attempt at staging an obvious murder as a suicide. Authorities charged Anastasi and Stas with 2 counts of first-degree murder and several other crimes related to the murders, holding Anne accountable as the mastermind, even if she didn't physically carry out the act. Stas pleaded guilty and received a 60-year sentence. In the meantime, Anne's attorney argued that she was driven to arrange the murders after suffering decades of emotional and financial abuse by her husband, and asked the judge to take these circumstances into consideration when deciding her sentence. The judge acknowledged that the abuse Anne endured could be seen as mitigating factors in her husband's death, but that it was clear that the murder was premeditated rather than an instantaneous emotional response to harm. Anne took an Alford plea, which means that she maintains her innocence but admits that the prosecution likely has enough evidence to secure a conviction against her. She was also sentenced to 60 years. Number 4. Ashley Spencer. Deputies at the Brevard County Sheriff's Office in Florida received an alarming report in 2020 when someone told them that a woman was trying to hire a hitman to kill her husband's mistress. 33-year-old Ashley Spencer had approached the person and asked if they knew any felons who would do a certain job for her. When the individual asked for more details, Spencer allegedly said that she wanted someone to kill her husband's mistress and her child. Spencer's husband and his secret lover met while working together as corrections officers. They began an affair, and the mistress got pregnant and gave birth to the man's baby. It came as an enormous blow to Spencer, who had tried unsuccessfully to conceive a child with her husband. The person who reported the situation to law enforcement claimed that Spencer had talked about buying a gun and using it on the baby. Authorities took the situation extremely seriously. In a bid to collect enough incriminating evidence to arrest Spencer, they had the person she had asked for help connect her with an undercover federal agent posing as a hitman. Spencer allegedly told the undercover officer that she wanted them to break into the other woman's home and tie her up so that she could cause harm to her and anyone else, including the baby. She offered $2,000 and the use of her gun and wanted the job done before her birthday as a gift to herself, according to an arrest affidavit. In the meantime, Spencer plotted to make it look like she was out of town during the murder in hopes that it would pass as an alibi. She planned to leave her car at a relative's home, borrow their car to commit the crime, and to wear gloves to avoid getting gunpowder on her hands. Authorities charged her with solicitation to commit first-degree murder and solicitation to commit occupied burglary with battery. Number 3. Shannon O'Rourke Griffin. Former NASA trainer Shannon O'Rourke Griffin and her husband, retired Army Colonel Roscoe Griffin, were undergoing couples therapy for problems in their marriage when Roscoe decided in 2012 that he wanted a divorce. O'Rourke had recently learned that her husband was having an affair, but he refused to stop seeing his mistress, a psychiatrist named Irina Puskariu. Unwilling to accept the reality that her marriage was over, O'Rourke drove 250 miles from her Kansas home to Puskariu's house in Missouri and knocked on the door. The 52-year-old then entered and shot Puskariu 3 times in front of her elderly mother. After killing her victim, O'Rourke called her daughter and her estranged husband to let them know that she had done what was necessary to protect people from Puskariu, whom she described as an evil woman. When Roscoe tried to call his mistress and couldn't reach her, he contacted the police. Authorities caught up to O'Rourke in Wichita on her drive home. She admitted to having 2 handguns in the car and was taken into custody on suspicion of murder. In 2015, she was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 20 years in prison with eligibility for parole after 14 years. Number 2. Emma Taylor. One day in 2018, Emma Taylor caught her husband cheating on her red-handed with a pregnant woman in the couple's Shreveport, Louisiana home. A neighbor later identified the other woman as an alleged sex worker named Crystal Sanchez, who was 5 months along in her pregnancy at the time. It's unclear whether Taylor's husband is the baby's father. Witnesses told local station KSLA that they saw Sanchez flee the home in an attempt to outrun Taylor, who chased after the mistress with her SUV. She was later accused of striking Sanchez with the vehicle and then getting out and trying to fight her. Police intervened in time to stop things from getting deadly and charged Taylor with second-degree attempted murder. Sanchez declined medical attention at the scene. Neighbors had mixed reactions to the ordeal. One nearby resident told KSLA that she would have taken her anger out on the husband rather than the mistress. Another local said that she would have probably done the same thing as Taylor if she were in the woman's shoes, except the victim probably wouldn't have made it. Number 1. Lauren Gray. After finding out that her husband had cheated on her with another local mom in 2018, 38-year-old Lauren Gray tracked the woman down in the Scottish town of Paisley and tried to confront her. Amanda Boylan could hear Gray shouting that she wanted a word with her. She initially ignored the scorned wife, but they ended up exchanging words, and it led to blows. Gray allegedly took the first hit during the argument when she punched Boylan in the face. She then grabbed the woman by the hair before getting in her car and driving away, leaving Boylan on the sidewalk with a bloody nose. Police caught up with Gray at her home and charged her with assault. Her lawyer argued that it was the first time his client had come face-to-face with his husband's mistress, and that the attack wasn't planned. Emotions were high, and Gray spontaneously lost control. Her attorney apologized on her behalf at court and said that she and her husband were working on their issues in hopes of saving their marriage. Gray pleaded guilty and was ordered to pay a several $100 fine. Thanks for watching. Would you rather find out that someone you were getting to know romantically was married and had kept it a complete secret from you, or be mistaken for a man's mistress by his revenge-driven wife while out in public? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye!